It would be a conspiracy if that's what we were saying, but this is no conspiracy because they're not really hiding it. It's out fully, open, in the public.
During this period, 5,000 communists were forced to flee the country. More than 1,000 went to prison. The climate was such that anyone who even leaned to the left was completely persecuted. But just to show how far it would take things in the legal system, the US government went beyond hard prison sentences.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system for the need for the post-corona era. But we have another choice. We can build a new social contract. In short, we need a great reset.
So I'm going to agree, actually, with the Times. They call us conspiracy theorists for saying this, and I want to agree that it would be a conspiracy if that's what we were saying. But this is no conspiracy because they're not really hiding it. It's out fully, open, in the public.
From the very beginning, the CIA has used money and control over people to seek control over the so-called free, pluralistic, democratic institutions of other countries. But then the great revelation. According to this poll, 35% of Americans believe that El Salvador has a pro-Soviet government. It doesn't say what the remaining 17% believe, but it wouldn't surprise me if they had Duarte confused with Khomeini and said El Salvador has an Islamic fundamentalist government. Well, you know, it's really ignorance, it's apathy, it's disinterest on the part of us Americans, generally speaking, certainly not the people at this conference, but generally speaking, that allows Reagan to get away with this and will probably allow Bush to do the same. Because I have been searching and talking to people looking for indications that the Bush program would be any different from the Reagan program. And so far, I haven't found a word. That means that this human cost is going to be continuing. People are going to keep on dying down there, and it could get much worse in El Salvador. As a matter of fact, I'll stop now in just a moment, but I want to mention the FEMA program, the Rex 84. I know a lot of you know about this. It was a program drawn up in the Federal Emergency Management Agency in the early 1980s in the event that the United States had to introduce troops to El Salvador or invaded Nicaragua. The government, or that is the Reagan-Bush administration, anticipated riots, big street demonstrations, a lot of civil disorder in protest against that invasion of Central America. They drew up a document and a plan whereby the president, by the stroke of his pen, would suspend the Constitution, establish as commander-in-chief martial law in this country, and hundreds of thousands of people would be rounded up and interned on military reservations. I think they selected 12 or 14 military bases, where people would be put without trial, without charges, just on ice to get them off the streets. Now, in the plan that I've read about, supposedly these were going to be undocumented Latin Americans. But in actual fact, you know, it was going to be every one of us who went out on the street. Well, that plan, of course, is still sitting there for the president's signature. We're that close to fascism in this country.
I want you to really think about that. And if you still say yes.
In 1951, Communist Party members Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were found guilty of being spies. But their sentences would be much different than their predecessors. The judge convicted them not for espionage, but for the murder of all the American soldiers who had been sent to die in Korea. On June 19, 1953, they were executed.
Don't make a mistake.
That's what a military dictatorship would be. There would be more and more racism, you know, more and more xenophobia and so forth. Well, the problem is that it's not only that we're lucky, everybody's lucky, I think, that the invasions never happened. But that doesn't mean they can't happen under...
The corporate media are owned and controlled by the transnational capitalist class.
Don't make a mistake. Don't make a mistake.
I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes. Yeah, there will be no private property, they hope, they say, by 2030. Is that you, Karl Marx?
Reason.
Global carbon prices, only eat meat as a treat, billions of refugees from climate change.
Okay, give me the meat. Make sure you don't lick your fingers. Thanks for the warning. I'll try to remember.
Don't make a mistake.
Stay here and keep a lookout.
Because bankers consider communism and dictatorship as a good investment.
You have two sides also to reconcile. You have a very dark side. I don't know the Soviet Union or the worst Stalin period of the Nazi era, but I know the dark side of America, and it's pretty dark.
A banker considers a dictatorship as a perfect government because everybody is totally controlled, and if anybody objects to paying high taxes or to paying debts, you can put them in a concentration camp or execute them. You can put them in a concentration camp or execute them.
To the business of innovation.
How will that change the fundamental principles of America? We may indeed go that way because it's easier, but that's not what this is. This is a shove into that system without allowing you the opportunity to talk about what does that mean. You'll rent everything. You'll own nothing. Will you be happy? I don't know. Sounds like, and none of us are going to have to, like zero possessions, renting everything from some big amalgamated corporate/government overlord and entity. But there have been deep, deep thinkers that have written article after article about what does that mean.
So let me just say this. I've owned my private plane, and it's it's the only thing wealth changes.
Yes, it is.
But we also have to realize that we have the blueprint for a country that can accommodate our best selves.
Yeah.
And the excitement that I have for our country, which is our trajectory. We haven't gotten close. The people who are calling themselves progressives in the streets are correct that the progress has been too slow.
The media is calling us crazy for being concerned about this. Now, this might work in some countries where you've never had private property, but we are a country that is based on individuals, individual freedom, and the entrepreneurial spirit of, I want to build something myself. Now, surely that article was from 4 years ago, so they don't still believe that communist bullcrap, do they?
Estimates are that the world's wealth is about $255 trillion.
All they did was attack anyone that was raising warnings.
Lead the nation into unparalleled darkness and despair.
To separate our unclean period, we need effectively a national mikveh from whoever it is that we're meant to be and try again. And we need to cover structural oppression and end to coercion and the conservation of our best values. And if that seems like a tall order, tough shit.
don't be foolish. They're condemning themselves to death.
The situation is getting worse and worse. The political repression is getting greater. There were more death squad assassinations during the first 5 months of this year than in all of last year. And the popular organizations are growing again in strength and taking to the streets, students, trade unionists, and so forth, and peasant organizations. And as this situation gets worse, the United States is going to deteriorate, and it already is deteriorating. The FMN correlation between the FMN, the force, FMN, and the government military force is going against the government. It's going against the military. The FMN dispersed in smaller units, and that has forced the military to do the same thing. The danger, again, that troops might have to be introduced, and perhaps an invasion of the United States, who knows. But FMN have not been able to do it. The only other alternative, if you want to solve things by force, is military. So this document of FEMA is very important. We may be on the verge of that in very few years.
I'd be penniless and start over if we could restore actual accountability, responsibility, and freedom.
It's a fallacy.
I've owned my private plane, and it's it's the only thing wealth changes.
So that's where we are. We've got to do better.
Their primary goal is promotion of products and pro-capitalist propaganda through their psychological control of human desires, emotions, beliefs, fears, and values.
This is special.
You know, so why? It's like saying a basketball is round, so why isn't the court round?